Hello, welcome. My name is Jason Boswell from Micro Focus. I'm part of the File Analysis Suite team. And today we're going to be talking about the Data Discovery product. And we're going to do another one of these 10-minute demos. And we're going to concentrate the topic today on data cleanup. So this is talks about ROT analysis. So let's just first of all review the use case and what we're trying to achieve here. So maybe I'm in the information management office and might be led by the chief data officer. The situation we're in today is that the finance department has a whole bunch of site collections that contain a large amount of legacy data. I need to make sure that I'm removing the duplicate, the redundant, that's the R piece, the old, the obsolete pieces, that's the O, and the trivial data from these repositories. Why are we doing this? Well, this data, there's costs associated with this data, but there's also risk associated with this data. And we want to be able to easily clean up this legacy data. So often this is the first stage in any data privacy, data risk assessment project, is to start with the information that we have that we can find that's easily identifiable using its metadata. And this allows us achieve many of our strategies to protect brand reputation, discover dark data, and also protect in terms of data privacy. So we don't have to analyze that data privacy if that information is just no longer required. Let's just find that straight from the offer and clean it up. Okay, so let's go straight to it and have a look at the product. So just before I come to actually doing some analysis of this finance SharePoint site and cleaning up that data, just want to point you to the types of indexing that's required. So if I just go and look at my data volume here, you can see that I've got data ingested over a wide range of time. And across all my repositories, data could be metadata only indexed, metadata and content index all fully collected. And to achieve this ROT analysis, we can actually do the most basic of the ingestion. So it doesn't really matter what stage in the ingestion process we are. We can do the fastest and also the least expensive indexing ingestion processes just using metadata to achieve this function. So it's often done at the start of the project. So let's get straight to it. We can go straight to our manage section. So we actually have some pre-built templates for data cleanup. So these ROT-based or data cleanup templates. So we've got one here called data cleanup. So to do this activity, you just go to create new workspace. Here's one that I created, a finance department ROT analysis we're going to do. And we're just going to choose the data cleanup template. So I'll go next, and complete. And just to save time for the demonstration, I've already created one. Let's jump into it here. So the first thing that I had to do when just deciding what this template was going to use, I'm going to say specify the data source. So where are these finance SharePoint sites that I'm going to clean up? And we do that in the data sources that I've defined here. And it's important that if you're going to identify between different data sources, so particularly for the redundant analysis, these should be created as separate repositories. So to help in my data cleanup task, I've also added the records repository in there so that if I find information in the SharePoint site that's also in Content Manager, so there's an official record already in this, we can remove all of the items, all of the copies we can remove from SharePoint. So that's why we've indexed both of those. So first step is creating the data sources. You can see instantly it's shown me on a timeline of, you can instantly see that I've got some quite old data in here and some relatively new data. And if I go and look and by default, it will have created some workbooks for me. So let's go and see the workbooks that have already been created. So I've got two workbooks. Let's go and edit them and see these ones that are automatically created for me. So it's created a trivial data workbook. Notice I'm only cleaning up file systems and SharePoint. By default, I don't clean up the records repository. However, if you do want to do that, there's no reason why you couldn't add these in here. There's no you can clean up any repository, but by default we suggest that most of the time you concentrate on cleaning up these unstructured data source types. We default a number of file extensions which we suggest are trivial types, but if you find that you want to keep some of these, you can reduce them off the list, or if you find some more, you can add to that list. So these are flexible in the workspace template. Obsolete data. By default, this is set to 10 years. I adjusted it to show some more data down to a year. I put it in the obsolete category. And suggested that I'm not interested in Excel files. I've just done this as an example. And so I said I want to clean up all the data, but if I find an Excel file, I don't want it in there. So that's a choice you make. I'm just suggesting that all these things are configurable. So if you wanted to clean out Excel files, of course you can do that. Right, so you'll notice that these I've got some obsolete data and I've got some trivial data at 8 and 9. Just a note on these donuts here. Notice it says 0% shared and 0% shared. This is the 3.3 version of the product. In a few weeks, we're putting the 3.4 version, and we made these donuts to be more flexible so that these donuts show how big this number is compared to the size of the repository. But at the moment, this shows it how many files exist that are shared across each of the categories. You'll also notice that we don't show the redundant item here because there's a little bit more work to do to configure a redundant, so we don't show that by default. But they're pretty easy to create. So now let's say we found the old data, we found the trivial data. Let's go and look for the copies, the duplicate copies. So here we're just looking for general duplicate copies across the SharePoint environment. So I create a new workbook. I'll give it a name. Let's just call it redundant. It's important that I set the category to redundant, and then they show up in this category list here. And we choose to use the kind of fourth option across here called task. Now, as I hit the select option, I get the option to either two types of deduplication. Compare against the official records. I'll show this example in another demonstration. So I'm going to turn this one off for now. And I'm going to show you this example here, which is I just want to look for duplicate files across all of the data sources. The next is to say, if I find copies in both two repositories, which one is the highest rank? So which one do you want to keep? So generally you put the kind of records repository at the highest level, and then you'd set these ones lower. So this sets which one's going to be the master and what rules do you want to put in place. Okay, so that's our deduplication order set, and that's as simple as it is to do that creation. Okay, so I'm happy with this. Let's hit create and create the workbook. Okay, so that's doing our task here. If I just open up the slider on the right, I can now check the activity process on it. Oh, it's done 3 already. So you can see if I refresh the screen now, the status bar should be updated. Okay, so I've got 3. I've done my task here. I've got 3 copies of redundant copies. I've got 3 obsolete. I've got 8 in obsolete data and 59 trivial data. We can review each of these sections. So let's go and have a look at each of them. Let's start with the trivial data. Oh yeah, so these look all like temp files. I can see a breakdown of all the file types here. So most of them are archive types. Okay, so I can just review each of the type. If I want to look at the metadata or any of the information about where the location of these things are, you can see they're all in the SharePoint site. Okay, so I'm confident that these are all trivial types. Happy to go ahead and actually execute the deletion of those. Let's look at the obsolete data now. You can see these are all SharePoint files of different types. It's your PowerPoint, Word, some text documents, some PDFs. Okay, so I can just check the dates on all these files. Happy with these. Yep, confident these. Notice I decided to split out the Excel documents here, but I could have chosen to add them in there as well. So I'm happy with the obsolete data. Let's check the redundant ones. So yeah, so we got redundant files. The redundant files, you get a special option here. So it tells you where the official copy is. So this is the one that's going to be removed, and the duplicate that we're going to keep is here. And so you can see which one it is. So this one's actually, you can see, that's actually in the record system. This one's also in the record system. And this one is actually, there's a copy actually in SharePoint. So this is the one we're going to keep. And you can see the URL of the copy here. So you can see actually it's in its name. I chose to do. The name is actually saying it's a copy. So I'm comfortable that all these items should be removed now. So how do we execute the actual cleanup activities now? All we do is go to the activity section and select each one of these and then hit the delete. Because this workspace is set to be reviewed, this selects, what it does is it checks the status of each one of these items. You know, 3's item, nothing's on hold, so these will be deleted. So I can set a reviewer who's going to review that and submit that for approval, and that will execute the deletion. If I look at some of the obsolete one, and we actually try and delete them, notice it, of the 8 items, 2 of them are on hold. So because these 2 items are on hold, only 6 of them will be deleted. Okay, so it does that check, it doesn't automatically delete, so there's other business rules that will stop an item from being removed if there's other business processes in place. Once this is completed, we'll review and we can report on the activities and audit all the activities. If you ever want to get a list of all the items that are in these workbooks, you just click on this and then you can export a CSV list. So if you wanted to output it to send to somebody for review, you could just export these as a list to a CSV, and then that could be emailed to somebody for review. If you want to report on the general overview of the activities, you can go back to here and click the report option. This opens a report of the information that's found, so you get a general overview and the data types that were part of this workspace that was analyzed, and the actions that were taken. Finally, I just want to show that all this information is audited, so all the activities, you can see that I did most of the data here, and the things that I viewed, things that I checked, and the actions that were taken, who reviewed those items. And then when you finish the process, you hit close, and this will close the workspace down, and all the process is completed. Okay, so going back to the home screen here. So all we had to do was index the metadata. That was already done for us. We created a workspace of the data cleanup template type, and we did some ROT analysis. Okay, thanks very much. See you next time.